there's 3 phases of every season. There's the beginning, the middle, and the end. So the cardinal signs, the innovators, are the signs that begin every season. If you have predominantly Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius in your chart, you're what's called the authority. Those are the signs that fall in the middle of the season. So then the mavens are the ones who have mostly Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Those are the signs that fall at the end of every season. So they're kind of the polishers, the finishers, the marketers. So the innovator comes up with this cutting edge concept that's 10 years ahead of its time. The authority actually brings it into form. And then the maven goes and tells the world about it, or goes creates something about it.
Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show, where I am interviewing and in conversation, it's really more of a girlfriend jam with one of my friends, Ophira Edut, who is actually a very famous astrologer. She and her sister, they are twins, Ophira and Tali Edut. They are called the AstroTwins. And the book is The Astrology Advantage. Looks like that. Use Your Horoscope for Personal and Professional Success. And so we talk all about, first of all, her backstory of how she became a very well-known astrologer, doing readings for super duper famous people, but also doing the astrology for Elle magazine for many, many years. They created a television show based on astrology and love. And 3 of the 4 couples are actually made it to the altar, which is kind of amazing. But this book in particular, I wanted to talk about because they've created this method called the I Am method. And it's basically an archetype system that helps you use astrology, if you're into it, to optimize the way you work, relate to others, and find your zone of thriving. So you might be an innovator, an authority, or a maven, and we break all of that down in this interview. So I hope that you enjoy my interview with one half of the AstroTwins, Ophira Edut, as much as I enjoyed interviewing her. I'm so excited to welcome my good friend, Ophira Edut, one half of the AstroTwins, to the Terri Cole Show, talking about all the things stars and talking about your brand new book, The Astrology Advantage. You guys, look at how beautiful this is. It's right behind her too. And this is, the subtitle is Use Your Horoscope for Personal and Professional Success. Yes, please. So let's discuss. What inspired you to write this book?
All the women that I saw, and men too, but predominantly women who are being helped by astrology, but confused by it at the same time. I mean, you know how many chart readings I've done for our ambitious, successful, impact-making friends, including yourself. Like, their minds are blown, but then they can't retain it. And, you know, I just got to a point where I was like, this has got to change, because the best tool in the universe should not be this hard to understand. So created a book about it. We'll get into that, but it's, for people who don't want to have to become astrologers, to use astrology anytime, any place.
Right. So there was a need.
Yeah.
Basically for this book. So who is the book for?
It is for anyone who loves a personality test. Like if you've done your Enneagram or Myers-Briggs, or even with you, like if you're a high functioning codependent in recovery, right? You say that gives you a framework, and then you can work within that. So what we did was we worked with something in astrology called the chart dominance. The zodiac is divided into 3 different types of signs. Cardinal, fixed, and mutable, but we gave them new names: Innovator, Authority, and Maven. And that spells out I am. And you're one of those, or you might be a hybrid of 2, but each of those has a very distinct profile. So the book tells you which one you are, and then it gives you an entire guide to like how you can do life in a way that works with your rhythms, instead of this one size fits all prescription we get.
Super exciting. Before we get into more sort of about the book and how people can use it, would you tell those who don't know, like you guys do a very specific thing in the world, and you do it incredibly well, and you've been doing it incredibly well for a really long time. For those who don't know, they're twins, and they're very well known they are definitely the astrologers to the stars, without a doubt. But more than that. So let's say this was a Marvel movie. Let's talk about your origin story personally, Ophi.
Yeah.
Like what got you here?
You know, I think when I went away to college and I was confounded by a lot of things in life, I stumbled on astrology, and all of a sudden, all these complexities within myself made sense. I knew I was a Sagittarius. I would start to read about stuff like that. I fit some of it, not all of it. But then my boyfriend in college did my entire birth chart, which has 13 different points in it mapped out. And they were complex and even contradictory. And it's kind of like a cosmic version of internal family systems. I know, in the therapy community, parts. So your chart really is like an expression of your parts. And as we know, the parts don't always fit together neatly. Or like, there might be a drunk uncle in the family next door to a teenage girl or something. It's just
right.
It's like, how do I reconcile that? So I was lucky that I found that at age 21. And I was like, this is fascinating. This explains all these things about myself that I was ashamed of or thought were needed to be fixed and improved. And I would say I'm definitely a high functioning codependent. I'm an identical twin. You're born codependent.
You really are.
Yeah, it's sorry. If you're a multiple, that's just how it is from the womb. But the high functioning, I'm daughter of an immigrant. There were, stresses in the family that just made me go into that hyper achieving mode. So astrology really helped me with that. And I started to do my friends' charts for them because there was always someone struggling with something, whether it was like a boyfriend, a girlfriend, school pressure. I was like, this really helps. So I didn't set out to believe in it or not believe in it, but what I would read was like, this sounds accurate and helpful. Right. So I just got, I became obsessed because I have 4 planets in Scorpio in my chart, and that's what we do.
You sure did. How did Tali get involved? Your twin?
It was a quick on-ramp. I showed her this 30-page chart because she has the same chart as I do, being born 4 minutes apart. It's based on your time, date, and place of birth. And we were both like, oh my God, what the heck? And dove down the rabbit hole. We were in art school at the time, and we went on to work in publishing. And how it became a career was that we were working in women's magazines. I was working at Ms. Magazine. I had been recruited by Gloria Steinem. We had our own magazine in college that we started and made to a national publication. But I would just like kind of sneak off to the copy editor's room when I was stuck on an article and do their chart readings for them and give them advice. And one of them moved over to Teen People magazine. Any of the millennials who remember that one. And called me a year later and was like, hey, the astrologers are leaving. Do you and your sister want to come and try out for the job? And it was like 2000 or 2001. It was a heyday in publishing. So they paid well, and I was able to quit a lot of my other jobs and just do that. Yeah.
Wow. That's so amazing. Like just to literally step into it. But again, sort of there's a faded feeling about it, like meant to be,
Meant to be, for sure. For sure. Little did I know.
It's funny. You and I met, for those of you who don't know. So we have a mutual friend. And then we found ourselves in this group. It was Chris Carr's birthday, and there was a whole bunch of us invited. And we just, for years and years and years, we've just supported each other and on the front lines of what everyone is doing. Then I ended up renting an apartment from you for many years. And we were like neighbors and shared a closet. It was a whole thing. But the whole reason to tell that whole freaking story is that I was not an astrology girl before we met. So I wasn't anti. I was like, oh yeah, I'm an Aries. Hopefully a bit evolved Aries, but yeah, Aries. But then you gifted me, you read my chart.
Yeah.
And I was going through a really rough time. And the way that exactly what the chart said made so much sense. You're like, oh, you're coming to the end of this difficult period. It's been there for 7 years, whatever it was. I just remember being like, I didn't tell her anything about I didn't talk about what I was going through. You literally read the chart and we talked about that. And I was like, this is so accurate. Oh my God, that's amazing. But what it gave me was I think similar to what you said about what it gave you in college, is that it gave me a sense of like, okay, it's not all just willy-nilly. Like something is going on. I'm going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And can I be patient and keep doing what I'm doing until this phase was over? And the same thing with, learning about Mercury going retrograde and what does that mean? In the beginning, I used to be like, oh, that's such bullshit. And then, of course, I didn't listen and had all of these really bad things happen.
I do
like
remember that.
during launches. Yes,
Like,
exactly. Because I was in
no,
the
she's
apartment and
launching during Mercury retrograde. No. Yeah.
you're like, Tara, don't. I'm like, too late. And then after that, the disaster, you were
I'd
like,
be like, okay, well,
just
that'll
ask
work
me.
out.
Yeah, I'll tell you. You were like, just ask me and I'll tell you what dates to avoid. I was like, oh, thank you. So anyway,
Yep.
I appreciate all of your expertise and how many people you've read that I know, but then you've also gotten out there into the world in a different way. So let's talk a little bit about that because you have many books.
Yeah.
I have many of your books. You have many books, and I really what I love about you and Tali, and you in particular, is that you have a very unique lens. You'll do things like you have that whole book on what is your sign and shoes.
Yeah.
Right.
The
So
shoe astrology.
remember
book.
that book?
Oh, yeah. Back when this is actually our 21st book, I counted. I was like, okay, well, but it's in my chart. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
It is.
yeah.
It's very exciting. And then you also had a television show. So can we talk a little bit about that before we get to the new book?
Absolutely. So, yeah, during the pandemic, we met a TV production company and suggested kind of like a Love is Blind meets astrology. I met with them on, I believe it was March 10th, 2020. So, you know, the pandemic's became official right after that, but somehow they managed to sell it to Amazon Prime Video. And we cast 20 people to, like go to literally the Malibu mansion where I believe The Bachelor's been filmed before, up on the top of a mountain. It's called Cosmic Love, the show. There was one person of each element, of fire, earth, air, and water, and they all had 4 prospects. The casting company went and found the requisite TV-friendly people, but we got to sort through all of them and match them by their charts, and spent 7 weeks in Malibu, like piping our voices into their ears and giving them their assignments. Who could be your match? And, is astrology. So it was a fascinating social experiment. 3 of the 4 couples ended up at the altar. One of them decided she was a Leo. So she, of course, decided that the greatest love affair was with herself. And she went home early, which is so on brand for the fire signs. And I mean, it was really, really fun. Amazon was experimenting with reality shows, so it didn't get out there as much as I would have liked it to, but it's still there and it's really fun to watch. It was mind blowing to like drive up this mountain and arrive on the set with like 300 people, trailers, craft services, this mansion. I'm like, that is what came out of our imaginations, and that's what happened. So that was wild.
It's actually so cool, though, to actually see that 3 of the 4 ended up at the altar. Like the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, right? You're like, there really is something to it with the compatibility in charts if you're into it. And you also do a lot of celebrity stuff.
Yeah.
And I wonder how, because you've been doing this for years, since we've known each other, which is at this point, I don't know, 15 years?
Yeah, more.
So how do people find you? Like, how does, I just saw online, you did Dua Lipa, you did, so many. You could name drop all effing day. Now, I'm not saying you need to, but it's kind of fun.
It is fun. Dua Lipa. We did Beyonce's first chart in 2003. We've been the astrologers for Elle since 2009, so 15 years. People see us there. They find our website, astrostyle.com, where people share AstroTwins, our Instagram, our books. I think we've just been around, it was kind of a snowball effect. We did Beyonce's reading in 2003. We're at the Billboard Music Awards backstage. That was a stroke of luck. Wow. Our first astrology book had come out, and someone saw it who runs those like celebrity swag rooms and called and invited us to come sit backstage at the MGM Grand Hotel. And we were like, oh my God. And we were like, okay, we'll be there. She's like, great, it's $10,000. we're like, yeah, we don't have that. We're 31 and like, but she called back and was like, I think this would be a real treat for the celebs. They're kind of nervous. Why don't you just get yourself to Vegas and like do charts for our company for holiday gifts, which I never even redeemed. So we still owe Backstage Creations like 20 charts probably. So feel free to collect if you're listening. But that's like when I think like the universe really does conspire in your favor,
It's also evens out the playing field though too. Like when you think about, we're all the same, and we both know, because we both have worked with highly visible people in life, that they're the same. You could do a chart for Dua Lipa. It's very similar to doing a chart for me, for someone else. It's like we all want to know things. We all want to feel like we're on the right track. We're all hoping that the thing that we're doing is going to be successful, or that we'll find love, or whatever the thing is, whatever the human thing is.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting, though, how many highly visible people are into astrology in a way that maybe people wouldn't think that they are,
And I think like I always say, and I'm sure you probably have a version of this, that human beings are our own biggest blind spots. We don't think we come with instructions, but we actually do. It's in your astrology chart. It's in the psychology, but we don't understand it. That's why you and I, with our Scorpio moons, have a job as translators of that information. And I think like you do the psychological version of what I'm trying to do with astrology, which is like make it accessible so that people don't have to go through years of therapy and maybe not have a good therapist and stay stuck. But like you do need a professional at a certain point, but there's also a lot you can do when you understand what is happening. So it's really about like putting that, what excites me as just as much as celebrity readings is like when I see them just get it, like, oh my God, I have like how you felt, that relief, that hope, like, okay, I'm not just, I'm it's going to be okay.
Right. Yeah. So true. So in this book you talk about, I just wanted to go back to the I am method briefly. So it's basically an archetype system that helps people. So can we talk a little bit about the archetypes?
Yeah. So it takes, your zodiac sign is really your sun sign. So when you were born, the sun was in Aries, but there's every planet. There's also your rising sign, the north and south nodes, which are the destiny points. So there's 13 points that we factor in, all the planets, the moon, the rising, and the nodes. And that creates a score. So in your chart, you have 4 fire, earth, and water, and only 1 air sign in your chart. And then you are an innovator. So you're a fire, earth, water innovator. There's 84 possible types. Yours is called the volcano. I'm going to read it to you.
Please do. I love it.
Yeah. So we have a little bonus with the book called the 84 types. It was material that there wasn't room for in the book, but I really wanted to have it in there. Because who doesn't want the name for what their type is? So I'm going to read it to you. But how it works is there's 3 phases of every season. There's the beginning, the middle, and the end. So the cardinal signs, the innovators, are the signs that begin every season. Aries starts spring, Cancer starts summer, Libra fall, Capricorn winter. So if you have a lot of those in your chart, then you will be an innovator. So I'm an innovator, you're an innovator. I have 6. So even though I'm a Sagittarius, which is one of the other signs, my dominant force is that of more of a cardinal sign. So if you have predominantly Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius in your chart, you're what's called the authority. Those are the signs that fall in the middle of the season. So they're the stabilizers, the builders, the sustainers. They're the ones who like take our ideas as innovators and make sure they get done. So we as innovators are going to be trailblazers. But if we don't have that person who's like actually producing it, making it happen, we're kind of screwed. Oh, you're 6 innovator, 3 authority, and 4 maven. So it's the volcano, a powerful, expressive change maker who disrupts the status quo and unleashes intense energy and creativity. I would say that sounds like you. So,
wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. So then the mavens are the ones who have mostly Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Those are the signs that fall at the end of every season. So they're kind of the polishers, the finishers, the marketers. So the innovator comes up with this cutting edge concept that's 10 years ahead of its time. The authority actually brings it into form. And then the Maven goes and tells the world about it, or goes creates something about it.
It's interesting. And what you said about like disrupting the status quo. And it's so interesting that you say that. I was just having a conversation with my therapist saying that how I'm very excited about the new book and all the things. And yet I have moments of knowing I'm a disruptor because I've basically coined a new phrase, high functioning codependency, and wrote a whole entire book about it.
Which is what innovators do. Innovators create things out of thin air that nobody has ever done before.
Yes. Yep. And yet there is it's so great and I'm excited about it. And yet there are the moments, which is just like anyone else, where you go, so now I'm like shaking the status quo cage. Like, is there going to be, you know what I mean? Are people going to be like, who the fuck is she to just make up coin a new phrase? That lasts for like 2 minutes, not even. And then you go, well, do you believe in what you wrote? Yeah. Is it true to you? It is. Have you seen it 1,000 times? Yeah. Did you just make it up out of thin air? Not really, because I made it up out of 27 years of experience. But I imagine each one of these, from the innovator to the authority to the Maven, have their own mishigots or their own stuff that goes along with.
Absolutely. We could talk about that for sure. I gave each of these archetypes a time zone that they're the most comfortable in. So innovators live in the future. We are time travelers. We're always off in our imaginations. We need to be alone a lot. We're downloading. As I said, an innovator bumper sticker would be like, I'm not procrastinating, I'm downloading. We go into the quantum,
I love it.
and then we come back into linear. So we're not the greatest with time. Like, we'll bend time. We will work 18 hours, but it'll feel like 2. So it's funny because I have an authority business advisor who's always trying to get me to break down how much time I spend on a task. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It will never be standardized. And I don't care. When I go into the quantum field to pull out whatever that divine inspiration is, I'll be back when I'm back. You just go count your clock some other way. So we do things in this very nonlinear process, and we need people to not try to put us in a box or make us do it that way. Even though it was the greatest honor to be recruited by Gloria Steinem, she gave me a job, a 10 to 6 p.m. job that somehow I could still never be on time for, because I would drink my coffee in the morning. And I know because we had many coffee cups together.
Yes, we had.
And nursed the cup all day and refilled it like innovators. But, you know, like, I'd be like, I'm inspired. I'm working on an article. I'm not going to stop to get on the subway and lose it all in this hour-long commute. But that was 1999. So it wasn't really, you know, there was no such thing as remote work at the time. So it didn't work out that great for me to work in that structure. And they lost a pioneering editor, and I went on to a .com where nobody even noticed if you came in at all. So, but the innovator
worked perfectly.
Yeah. But the Michigas of the innovator is like, we are who we are, that we're independent, and people do get pissed at us. We do have to beg forgiveness instead of asking permission a lot, because we're like, I'm sorry, I just can't do it your way. So, but when we come out with the output and we find the perfect team that supports us instead of trying to change us, that's when we can shine. The authority is very by the book. So if anyone's going to be like questioning, who do you think you are to create a new term in psychology? Or who do you think you are, Ophi, to bring astrology into the business world? Or, you know, make it into this new thing? Like, okay, they're probably authorities. Authorities time zone is the past. They look to the past for, well, this has been around for this many years. It's been peer reviewed. It's been this. They look for these. So, and look, at best, they hold down a pillar of integrity. That's really important for, for things. They make sure things are legitimate when they're balanced. Out of balance, though, they get scared of change. They get stuck in the past. They don't evolve. They have what's called loss aversion, whereby by not changing, they end up losing even more. They're the ones who probably have the most daddy issues and good girl issues, I'd say, probably. Innovators, we just we're definitely the overachievers, like competitive. The authorities just stuff it down and try to be good and then, explode inside. And then the Mavens, they live in the present. So they're probably the ones who express any kind of psychological imbalance by being loud and nervous and over the top, or else withdrawn and you see the wheels spinning in their heads. Maven energy is communicative. So they are dynamic. They're the ones who are willing to talk about stuff, share their vulnerabilities. They will wear their hearts on their sleeves. So, at best, they will say the thing that no one else dares to say. And they listen. They're the mirrors. They mirror back to you. They don't assume they know what you're gonna say, because they're just with you in the moment. They're also the close talkers sometimes, who stand 2 inches away from you, gaze into your eyes, and you're like, whoa, okay. A little intense, they scream when they see you on the street. They crush you in a bear hug. They're always
I know
extra.
the type.
And they're kind of they like to do everything all at once. So they don't modulate. They get overwhelmed. They're the ones who would come to one of your groups or seminars, having a million ideas that they never finish, and a shitty job that they don't get enough money for, or being really accomplished, but also trying to be everything. I cooked for my kids and I took them here and I did this and this and this and this and that. So over-functioners, I think I would say, if anything. We all have some innovator, authority, or maven. Some people have zero of something. Like my stepdaughter Clementine, who you've known since she was a little kid. She was a big YouTube makeup artist, very creative Leo, but she's now an accountant in Washington, D.C., which is probably the last thing you would ever expect. But she has 11 of her 13 planets in authority. 0 innovator, 11 authority, and 2 maven. I've never seen that level of concentration in one. So I was like, oh, she is by the book. She was even trying to get my now 13-year-old daughter to consider accounting. It ain't happening. But she's like, but it's really secure. And she'll be, I was like, Sibel, it's okay. You're an innovator. You can do whatever you want.
It's all going to work out. But it's funny, though. You have this frame, again, to look at. So here's the book, again, for you watching. This is what it looks like. You can buy it everywhere that fine books are sold. But if you want to get the bonus.
astrostyle.com/Iam. Or just go to astrostyle.com and you can click right on over to it. And if you buy it from us, you'll get the bonus 84 types. And depending on when you're listening to this, if it's before the book comes out, then, or right after it does, we have some workshops and other really awesome things to help you apply it to your life and really understand it.
Well, I'm super excited to apply it to my life. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing so much with us today. You guys, the book is The Astrology Advantage. Use your horoscope for personal and professional success, with the AstroTwins Ophira, who's here with us today, and Tali Edut. I love you guys. I so appreciate you being here. You guys go get this book. You're going to love it.